For a time, bra and panties matches were treated as a recognizable part of World Wrestling Entertainment's television programming. They were marketed as spectacles, built around humiliation and titillation instead of athletic competition, and they became closely associated with the company's late Attitude Era and Ruthless Aggression Era presentation of women. But by the end of the 2000s, that style of match had largely faded away, and not by accident. Its disappearance tells a bigger story about how World Wrestling Entertainment changed, how its image changed, and how the role of women on its programming changed with it. What makes bra and panties matches so interesting is that they were never really just about the match itself. They were a symptom of a specific era in wrestling. During the late 1990s and into the 2000s, World Wrestling Entertainment leaned heavily into shock value, sex appeal, and edgy television. The company openly promoted its female talent as divas, a label that signaled glamour, attitude, and marketability as much as wrestling ability. That branding showed up everywhere, on television, in magazines, in contests, in merchandise, and in the way many women's segments were framed. The match type fit that ecosystem perfectly, and that is the key to understanding the rise of bra and panties matches. They did not rise because the company suddenly discovered some brilliant new form of competition. They rose because, at that moment in its history, the company saw women's wrestling as only one part of the package. The women were often asked to be performers, personalities, eye-catching attractions, and promotional figures all at once. In that environment, a match where the goal was to strip an opponent down to her bra and panties was not treated as an oddity. It was presented as mainstream sports entertainment. It was provocative, easy to understand, and designed to get a reaction instantly. That formula worked for the company for a while because it matched the tone of the period. World Wrestling Entertainment was chasing attention in an era where outrageous content was often rewarded. The women were featured in swimsuit shoots, magazine spreads, and the diva search, which explicitly sold the idea of finding the next diva and repeatedly framed contestants in terms of sex appeal and television appeal. The company's own coverage from that period used language like the sexiest women on television, which tells you exactly how the division was being positioned at the time. But even at their peak, bra and panties matches carried a built-in weakness. They were hard to evolve. There is only so far a match like that can go. It does not build a division around competition. It does not create much long-term credibility. It does not make championships feel more important. It gives you a moment, maybe a talking point, maybe a controversial clip, but it does not give you much foundation. And once the novelty wears off, the limitations become obvious. The women involved might have charisma, presence, and even real in-ring talent, but the stipulation itself boxed them into a very narrow role. That brings us to the fall. One of the clearest turning points came in 2008, when World Wrestling Entertainment publicly announced that its programming had moved to a PG television rating. The company said its family programming had been deemed PG by its network distributors and emphasized engaging families across generations. That kind of shift matters because a product moving toward a more family-oriented image is naturally going to move away from match types built almost entirely around sexualized humiliation. Bra and panties matches did not disappear because one person simply woke up and banned them. They became less compatible with the direction the company wanted to present to advertisers, broadcasters, and a broader audience. There was also a bigger structural change happening over time. In 2008, the company introduced the Divas Championship, complete with the butterfly design that symbolized the Diva era. That title would define the division until 2016, when World Wrestling Entertainment officially retired the Divas Championship and introduced the new Women's Championship at WrestleMania 32. On that night, the company also announced that female competitors would no longer be referred to as divas, but as superstars, just like the men. That was more than a cosmetic change. It was the company publicly signaling that it wanted its women's division to be framed differently than it had been in the past. And when you look at the timeline, that is what makes bra and panties matches feel like such a revealing artifact. They belong to a world where women were often marketed first through appearance and only second through competition. As the company slowly moved toward presenting women as wrestlers, contenders, champions, and eventually central stars, the old match type started to look increasingly out of place. A division cannot be sold as historic, athletic, and equal. while also leaning on a stipulation whose entire point is to strip away dignity for entertainment. That does not mean the women of that era lack talent. In fact, one of the most important points in this entire discussion is that many women working during that period had to succeed inside a system that often gave them very little room to show what they could really do. The company's later retrospectives on the women's revolution explicitly framed the mid-2010s as a turning point, with the arrival of Charlotte, Becky Lynch, and Sasha Banks, Charlotte ending Nikki Bella's record Divas title reign, and WrestleMania 32 replacing the Divas title with the Women's Championship. The message was unmistakable. The company wanted a new identity for women's wrestling. So why were bra and panties matches discontinued? The most responsible answer is this. They faded out as the company's business model, television standards, and presentation of women changed. The PG transition made that type of content less suitable for the company's public image, and the eventual move away from the Divas label toward the women's revolution made it even less compatible with where the company wanted the division to go. The company may not have issued a single grand manifesto saying, "This is the exact day and reason bra and panties matches are dead," but the direction of travel is very clear. And in the end, that is why this match type is worth talking about. Not because it was great wrestling, not because fans are begging for it to come back, but because it captures an entire philosophy of world wrestling entertainment that no longer fits the same way. It represents a time when spectacle often outweighed sport, when women were too often framed as attractions instead of athletes, and when the company believed that kind of content was part of its mainstream formula. Its fall, in many ways, marks the moment that formula stopped working. So when people remember bra and panties matches, they are not just remembering a gimmick, they are remembering an era. And the reason the match disappeared is the same reason that era had to end. World wrestling entertainment changed, its audience changed, its corporate image changed, and eventually, the women's division changed with it. If there is one final takeaway here, it is this. Bra and panties matches did not vanish because they were forgotten. They vanished because the company outgrew the version of itself that created them in the first place.